Salvia 100x trip report, posted to Shroomery 15 years and 1 month ago, by the user High C. As promised, I now bring you a very odd story of my experiences on Salvia 100x extract. Very interesting stuff. To start off, if you are a noob to Salvia or inexperienced user, please do not start with anything over 20x max to start. The effects hit you so fast, you may not know what to make of it. I purchased 1 gram of 100x Salvia from an online vendor, from which, in my knowledge, is the only one that actually carries it this potent. I purchased 1 gram of 100x Salvia from an online vendor, who in my knowledge, is the only one that actually carries it this potent. It cost $80 shipping included, and arrived in about 4 days. I did not actually believe how authentic it was, until I got a good look at the almost completely white, very aromatic material. Trip number 1. Setting. I was positioned on a very comfortable sofa in my friend T's music studio. My feet were propped up on a fold-out chair, and there was only Christmas lights dimly lighting the near-black environment. I filled my little blue 10-inch bong with ice-cold water, and being a person always trying to push myself, I packed a decent-sized bowl and took a mean hit. I gave the bong to my girlfriend, positioned in front of me, and I looked around the room at my girlfriend, T, and J, all sitting about 6 feet in front of me. My lungs only allowed me to hold it in for about 40 seconds, a mere 20 from my goal. But believe me, that's all I needed. When it did hit me, the only thought in my mind was I just transferred into a cartoon. I tried to close my eyes, but only still saw the room. I put both hands over my eyes, convinced that somehow my eyes could still see my friend sitting there. I found this so humorous that I almost passed out from laughing so hard. You know them laughs so hard, no noise or anything comes out? I was stuck laughing like that for about a minute, until I calmed down and realised that elephants were violently throwing barrels at everyone in the room. They kept missing me by inches, but I knew it was the drug. Then, I looked at the floor, and it's hard to explain, but the floor kept repeating itself over and over, like 1,000 times, stacking up everywhere around the room. The room then was a beach, and what I thought was a remote part of Atlantis, drained and restored to its original time. By this time, it faded slowly away, and I became more aware of my surroundings. The last part before I was fully okay again, was I looked at everyone and said, "I'm ticklish because my legs just had an orgasm." Pretty good, very strong effects. The visuals are also amazing, and my body felt like applesauce being slowly poured out. Crazy, to be honest. However, I sold most of my gram to people. I sold little pinches for $20. Not pinch like a good 2 strong or 3 light trips worth. Anywho, after returning home that night, I had just a little bit left and decided, what the hell, I'll smoke the rest. Mistake number 1, no sitter. Mistake number 2, I was kinda scared to do it by myself. Mistake number 3, I smoked it. Trip number 2. I took all the smoke in one hit in my car in my driveway. I placed the bong and lighter in my passenger seat safely. However, by the time I blew smoke out, I had this indescribable feeling of fear that I was not supposed to be where I was right now. I said, I have to go, but I didn't know why. I then looked at my stereo, and it was in 3 pieces, which disconnected and started floating in opposite directions. Then I looked at my steering wheel where my hands were on. These 3 pieces also broke apart and floated away. And then, my body broke up and floated into 3 different time frames. One was New York City in the early 40s, one was Baltimore City present, and a world of pure imagination, filled with natural growing drugs, shroom and weed for days. But what was really weird was that I was in all 3 of these places at the same time. When I came to, I realised that I'd kinda dozed off, but upon opening my eyes, I saw hundreds of rhinos beelining it straight for my car. I turned it on quickly and started speeding backwards down my driveway. Upon reversing, the bong fell off the passenger seat and I came to again and remembered I had just smoked salvia. By this time, I was pretty okay. I spent the remainder of the time looking at animals and people in the trees, but still with that little spot in the back of my brain that was holding fear of an unseen force. Yeah, this was some crazy shit. I probably won't ever do salvia that potent again, but I will continue to use the plant as long as it remains legal, which I heard may not be long. Peace. A Salvia 100x death trip, posted to Shroomery by Pweds 8 years and 2 months ago. I'm not new to hallucinogens, but I'm not a constant tripper either. I've experimented with the majority of what's out there, but had never done Salvia. My homie had bought some 100x through the mail, along with some non-psilocybin mushrooms, and roped me into trying it out. I honestly didn't think that much of it, so we set it all in motion one night before we were going to hit the town. Mistaken were we ever. I went first. We had a little pipe and used the shrooms as a filter, laying out a good bit of Salvia 100x on top. We went into the bathroom to smoke it because we had a kitchen torch and didn't want the neighbours across the street to see us in the apartment and think we were smoking crack. I sat on the toilet, lid down, lol. Took a deep breath and went for the gold. I took a huge hit, and then another half one before exhaling. I remember telling my homie to hit it, and he looked at me like I was nuts. Then, I started to feel it a little, and that's all I remember from that side of reality. What seemed like an eternity later, my conscious mind found itself being completely shredded. I felt like I was in a salad spinner, except I didn't know who I was or what reality was mine. I was only a consciousness, but stripped of any and all bearings. I was in some total alternate space far from any light or warmth. I very slowly began to regain consciousness, and I vaguely remember being in front of some sort of otherworldly tribunal that was judging me for my serious fuck-up and the lowly piece of shit I am. Except, I still didn't know who I was. I was on my back now, and rather than being in a salad spinner, reality was peeling off of me in layers from my upper right side to my left feet. Layer after layer, not permitting me to know what was happening at all. Still, I had that often referenced deja vu feeling of being back in a world that I somehow knew but rarely visit. Still not knowing entirely who I was, but remembering what a human is and knowing that I am married. I tried to picture my wife's face, but I just couldn't. I felt as if I was in this terrible limbo for months and was expecting to wake up in a hospital bed. Whatever was happening right now, I had a profound sense that it was incredibly bad, and that I had seriously fucked up. I became conscious that my friend was there, and that he was asking me questions. He, being kinda dumb, asked me what my son's name was, my son not yet being born at the time. I tried to think, and I said, Ozzy, the name of my little dog. Not the best question he could have asked. I began feeling and seeing faces all around me, and hearing the sounds of the city. I came back to myself and fuzzily remembered who and where I was. As I began to come out of such chaos, the first thing I asked him was whether he called the police, and whether they were on the way. Somehow he had gotten me onto his bed after I had completely blacked out for around 10 minutes, and tore his bathroom and front hallway all to hell. After I had taken the hit, he told me that I stood up and started to fall backward towards the tub. He caught me and kept me from hitting my head, but once I was on the ground, I started kicking him and pinned him against the sink, damaging all of his cabinetry. He'd somehow managed to drag me out into the hallway, where I latched onto the underside of the closet door in his front hall, ripping it off the hinges and still kicking at him and repeatedly screaming a terrified, "Who are you?" I can't imagine what the neighbours must have thought right now. Needless to say, we didn't make it out that night, and my homie decided to hold off. After recovering and pondering what I'd done, while not something that I would be quick to do again, I have to say that I'm sort of happy to have had the experience of obliterating my consciousness at that point. Quite frankly, I didn't know it was possible to shatter my reality on such a level. I finally learned that our consciousness is an imprint on our physical selves, and that it must be treated with care and respect.